Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, sure.
You guys have an intro?
We do. Do you want to see?
Sure.
Sure. Hello. Welcome to Art for 50 Cents. I'm Grace.
I'm Leo.
This is Ash.
I'm Ash.
Wow.
Yay.
Art for 50 Cents is a play on words. You get the turn of phrase R2 cents or penny for your thoughts. And so this is Art for 50 Cents because me and Leo are studying fine arts for 50. So our thoughts are more expensive now.
I'm less expensive since I'm 411.
Yeah, but I feel like you pay more for your thoughts than we do. Or
Yes.
I do anyway.
Paid quite a lot.
but- well,
More.
411 and 450 is not that much different.
International students is a
we
big
should-
price increase.
Yeah.
We need an alliance. We need a union.
Yes. Give us some rights finally.
Yeah. Right. So we've been your corner today.
Yes.
Yes. So my project, I've named it The Design of Mortality, but I don't know if that's kind of a working title. I was I think I need to talk about the previous year
Yeah.
to make it
That's
clear.
fine. When we explain our works, we start with
Okay.
I start with 2022.
So I'm always interested in historical research, and I want to say 2017 maybe.
Yeah.
I stumbled across Ask a Mortician's videos, who's a mortician in LA that just makes kind of educational content surrounding it, and I just found it really fascinating. So I got her memoir, and then she also has all of her books listed on Audible as well, where
That's
she's
so cool.
narrating them. And it was just an ever fascinating topic. And it wasn't until 2021 that I was able to get some of hers on Audible, since I only had the physical books before. So it just kind of reignited my interest in it. And I just realized how rife it was for scholarship and discussion, but not really something. The concept of death is quite bleak and not something that people really want to address.
It's almost taboo to talk about. In most
Yeah,
settings.
and since I really like historical research, I was kind of debating what I wanted to study, and between art and history, but my parents said that this would be more applicable, so I chose
How
that.
is fine arts more applicable than history?
Well, I actually was first enrolled in Bachelor of Commerce in innovation because my stepdad was very keen on me becoming an engineer.
Right.
Which is, if anyone knows me, is very unlikely, as I am just clearly not an engineer. I'm fine at maths, but it's not something I particularly enjoy. I've always wanted to be an artist, and I was here for 2 weeks, and I was just sitting in one of the accounting classes. I was like, this is actually hell. I cannot do this anymore. And I called them and I just said how shit time I was having. So am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And they were complete change of pace. Just, oh yeah, if you really want to do art, then do that. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You couldn't have told me that,
Yeah.
a year ago when I was first enrolling. You've been pushing this the entire time. But so they finally let me do it, but only design because, that's the more applicable out of the options. But in the end, I really like design.
That's
I think
cool.
it's I think it's a really interesting discipline. So I was glad I chose it, but I just got off track.
No,
Sorry.
you're fine. You're allowed to be off track.
In 2021, I started having more interest in the topic again, and I did my project on kind of the design in the death industry specifically.
That's cool.
And I thought it would be interesting from a designer and outsider's perspective take on. I looked at kind of all different designs that were used, from mortuary magazines to the products that they sell. And I was also interested in kind of the callousness that's needed to be in such a difficult job.
Yeah.
And the advertisements were just I stumbled across one of them, and it was for baby coffin. And it was just it made you real sad.
Yeah.
But it's just it's day to day for them. So seeing how the design was used and also how little design or design thought is put into it, I thought was interesting as well. And we were learning about design fiction at the time and kind of speculative fiction. So I started recreating historical documents from American death industry, starting in the Civil War, with kind of a different the first one I made was if aquamation or water cremation became popularized instead of cremation, because I was looking into like the history of cremation in the States, which for a while was considered really taboo. They were like, oh, you're barbecuing the dead. And it was only until like this professor went around and gave all these talks about saying how purifying fire was that it got everyone kind of more interested in it. And it was also just more feasible at the time. And now, you know, that's the prevailing way that we take care of bodies. So I thought it was an interesting thing to look at. And I stumbled across on eBay some funeral like advertising magazines from the 1960s.
That's cool.
And so I was recreating those advertisements I saw in there as well. And I created those bottles with like the fake labels mimicking the Champion Chemical Co. I also looked into the chemical companies and how they use design in their world. And I photographed them. But the kind of culmination of that research was, you know, death is an extremely personal thing for what you want to happen. Everyone is going to have different priorities if they care more about, you know, the memory of themselves and they want keepsakes or something, or are they more environmentally friendly and they want something that's going to be little impact. There's just so many different avenues for that. So over the summer I was trying to determine for 411 if I wanted to continue doing my previous research or if I wanted to do something completely new. And I just kind of realized that it was still something I was very much interested in, and because it was a topic that was so under discussed, there was like no one's talking really about it from a design perspective. So I thought I wanted to continue with that, but the main issue was it's really personal. You need to be able to decide it for yourself. And I started thinking, what are ways that I could make it easier for people to make those decisions? Because to just say, oh, you need to consider your death is like a big, it's a big ask. And you have to do a lot of research from a lot of different sources to figure out, okay, well, which, body disposal method am I interested in? What kind of keepsakes am I going to have? What documentation? There's just so many questions. And I started thinking of those like 2000s teen like magazines that have those quizzes in them. And I thought, okay, I could have different sources and say to figure out what you care about. And it could also have articles, either written by me or outside people about the topic. And I really just did that to give myself like a clear prompt to get working, because I really need like something to tell me what to do, even if it's myself telling me what to do. And I just started kind of making covers for this and ideas for this zine, and looking at examples of quizzes and things like that. But when I went in for my critique and I told my ideas, Luke kind of pointed out, do I need to mention who Luke is?
I think we're talking about Luke, our lecturer.
Okay.
I think we've mentioned a couple of Lukes at this point.
Sorry.
Yeah, pretty much.
I just ramble sometimes.
No, you're right.
Good.
And that is exactly what a podcast is at its core, is someone talking about something for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Fine.
I feel like I have to like give the background to make
No,
not
she's
just
good.
like...
This is what we want. You're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
He kind of pointed out that those things already exist in most, not specifically, but they already make planners and things like that. And on further research, I found there's just this plethora of death planning guides. And, to be fair, most of them are not designed well, and you can tell, but it would just be dressing up something that already exists in my own design style.
Yeah.
So I realized, okay, I need to go like more explorative with my project. And he was also saying, that's a really small, like, it's not that big of a project. It's not discovering anything new. You're just talking more about awareness. And I was like, yep, no, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
So
It's not quite a research project at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not really a research project. Yes, it was helping to get me, my foot off the ground to get started, but it wasn't the most beneficial idea.
Right, yeah.
So I just like went back to researching to figure out, okay, well, why is it that Luke was kind of encouraging me, why is it that you're interested in death? And he was like, is it certain types of death? And I was like, oh, well, no, not like, I guess me saying death, what I really mean is like mortality is the concept that I'm discussing. Less so like, oh yeah, here are all the different ways people die. I didn't really mean that.
Yeah,
and
I think
like,
he's trying to like narrative your ideas, and then you can deep in like more advanced. Like
like he was like, oh, is it like suicide? I was like, well, I mean, maybe a little, but not really.
well,
Oh.
like in one way, suicide is the most active way to death. You can like
Okay,
choose
we're gonna
the
move
most
on.
part.
This is not something we need to delve into deeper, Leo.
I mean, it will pop up.
That's
but
okay,
later.
but like,
So I just started, and with last year as well, a lot of it was how can you tie this back into design, and which was kind of a hard question for me, like how can you tie it back into, because we've been talking this whole year, doing all of these readings, and it's always like design as a method of translation. We've heard in a lot of different, spaces. And so I was kind of wondering, well, how is my stuff? How is like done in Raby, speculative design?
yeah.
How is that more design? But mine's not. So I thought I need to find some concrete stuff to show that I'm interested in design. I started looking into these studies that have been done on human-computer interaction and these ideas of thanosensitive design or like death-sensitive design for people working in the death industry. And they realized that there wasn't really much training going around on being sensitive to people. And there was just kind of no interaction there between like, is it UI that's interactive?
Yeah,
User interactive?
user experience, UX.
UX is, and then UI is the designing.
It's user
Okay.
interface. They're both, and they're used interchangeably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think user interface would be UI design.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any of that intersection between death, which is like a huge part of life, but not discussed. So for our first like critique, I found those examples of speculative design, of like a design firm that had created these lockets as a way to like remember loved ones. And it talked about people like with dementia as well, and having a keepsake that you could always turn to, but also realizing like as a way to let go. There was all these different models. But after that, Luke was just like, okay, you need to stop reading. You're getting all tied up in this reading. And I was like, yeah, but I need to get to the root. And he's like, no, like he kind of told me again, practice-based research is still research. And even though you're trying to tie it back to this like more scientific reasoning, it's not getting you anywhere. You're just going to go in a circle of reading. So then I just started like designing stuff. And I was thinking also when he talked about the idea of memento mori, like what I'm interested in is the idea of mortality and things that help you remember that so that people can make their own personal decisions later on. So I again started researching.
Of course, as you know. I'm the same.
The use of memento mori in all of history. And I was also found, you get an uptick, particularly after pandemics and like large deaths-related incidences, one of which is like the Black Death. And so I was looking into transy tombs, or also called like funerary monuments. But transy tombs is specifically ones following the Black Death in France. And it shows like the transition between life and death. I have like some examples here. This was the one that I just got drawn to because it was such an example of what I was looking for, in that it's still aesthetically pleasing and like a gorgeous work of art, but it is dealing with something that's a bit more difficult. They did kind of advance to show specifically what the person passed away from, so it got a bit gorier. I think she passed away from malnutrition. And another one, he had like his insides eaten out by rats.
Ooh.
So it gets like quite gory, and I realized, that's not really as gory as I want to get, but they are.
Was what those were.
And they're meant to share like physical similarities. And this is a precursor to the idea of the Grim Reaper, like the physical depiction of death. So a really kind of important part of history and how we use memento mori. And I also thought it was interesting, kind of, we've just followed a pandemic, and there hasn't really been a similar uptick because, you're not really yes, you might have people around you that have passed away, but it's not like you're interacting with death on a day-to-day basis. You're very, separated from that.
I feel like with this pandemic as well, there's been even more separation with modern medical understandings. If people are dying in hospitals with the nurses because the family aren't able to come, and so there's that separation from the dead body as well.
Yes, 100. It's really tragic, everything that's been going on. So I just started, sorry.
No, you're right.
Making kind of random posters to just get me working and looking at images and ones that dealt with cliches as well surrounding death. And I just made a bunch of posters, and I made one of them as like a tear away, take a phone number poster, and I'd put on the bottom, because I was thinking about artworks that like in exhibitions where you can take something away afterwards, but I wouldn't want it to be in like a clean cut gallery space, because it just doesn't really feel like it fits with what I was doing. So I was thinking of those posters that you just put up, random places, and I put "Embrace the Inevitable" on the bottom. And when I went in for the critique, Luke was like, I really like what this is doing, but I want it to be a real phone number. So I started looking into how I could make a real phone number, and I was questioning, well, what would I want the phone number to do? Well, if I have the question that I put on the first poster of "Have you considered your mortality?" I want it to answer being like, oh, okay, this is what you're considering. It's a really difficult topic, and kind of delve into that. Yeah. Or do I want to have, press 1 for this, press 2 for that.
Yeah.
So, I've been working on getting the phone number operational, and it required, like my ID and proof of address. I provided the proof of address from my wisdom teeth receipt, which was, like that's a medical document. Right. And for some reason, they didn't accept that. So I found out today it said that it needed a rent receipt.
A bill.
Utility bill. And I'm like, all of the utility bills are under my partner's name. I don't. So I had to provide like my actual lease in order to get it approved.
Wow, yeah.
And I had to have like a physical person look at my account to verify that I'm not like, 'cause it's regulations input to keep spam.
Yeah.
So now it's supposed to be like approved near end of day. And then I already have the script for what I want it to say, but I was just trying to decide whether or not I wanted my voice to read it or an automated message, because you can select that option. They said I can even do a New Zealand accent if I want. So I'm still trying to decide. I've been taking some polls from everyone, but that's kind of...
I wonder if there's an in the middle option of like, not your voice, but not a digital voice either. I feel like it'd be weird to hear a digital voice talking to me about death.
But like,
I agree. It's like more computer. Like I feel like that goes more towards like the human computer interaction if I do it as automated voice. Whereas it would be like more personal if it was moved. But also Luke just suggested you should just put your phone number, and just like if anyone calls, be like, oh yeah, what's up? Getting sad? And I was like,
the real problem is you want digital voice or human voice. Obviously, you want a human voice. I mean, like, it's your own voice or not your own voice. It don't that much matter.
Well, I
guess also because I'm going away from the corporate aspect, because they're still, for the final critique, they kind of mentioned that if I want this to be widely, universally applicable, because it's a universal issue, this kind of not speaking about it in the Western culture, then the design needs to be universal. It needs to look corporate so that it's everyone, it will appeal to everyone, which I really do not want to do. I just don't really, I'm not super interested in corporate design unless I'm getting paid for it.
That's fair.
I can't really, I feel like if I want to use this like fourth year
a valid critique from them, but I feel like it's also at a certain point, but then you've got to survive this year. You can't take on every single little suggestion.
But they said, so either make it more universally applicable in the design or make the project more personal to fit you. So that is where my next one is is what I'm working on, to make it more personal, I guess.
I mean, like, corporate design style is kind of changing in recent 2 or 3 years. If we're looking at a few of the most successful and new corporate company, like OpenAI, the website they have.
OpenAI doesn't count.
Or it's quite a big company, and also like background from the Microsoft is quite popular.
I don't know, like the modern design, like the trend of those kind of swoopy, ornate fonts that have been everywhere, and those gradients of like the sunbursts. I feel like. Has been like the modern design.
super simplified, really disgustingly, like, I can't even think what I want to, like Google's stuff has just been slowly getting less and less.
I hate the
It's
whole
so
trend
annoying.
of simplification. I think
Timing is like
takes away so much character.
yeah. I mean, it is like the things you look back for the luxury industry for last 2 or 3 years, like probably 3-4 years, like the brand they was changing back to Helvetica in like around 7 years ago. They changing back to original fonts or like have more lineage on inside, and then you're looking at the new company outside. That's why I mentioned the OpenAI. The website they got is still kind copper design style. You can get it, but it's definitely got more fun and more like personalized things inside. I feel one thing is because like we like as a whole society is quite really tired on the corporate designs in one way. Another way, it's just like as a company today, you want standing out, and when you're looking at like 100 of the Helvetica tags, you can't identify anything of them. I remember when I studying like an early of corporate design stuff like that, there was mentioned to say when you to make some design, you need make your design like black and white still a variable, and also like make super small still variable. And today's corporate design don't fit in that two basic rules.
You think?
Yeah, I don't think so. Like losing like those Helvetica design brand, like if you make it small, like text size like around 5 or 6, and then black and white, no color. And then you put it like in a small card, like put it like 5 of them in there, and you can't just identify what's there in short time. So I think we in the step you can choose something universally, and also have very strong like personality inside.
You think?
Yeah, I think
Well, I'm still trying to decide. I don't know if I want to go on to like do a website or something, and then that it would need to have that intersection of the corporate as well as like the personality. I'm still because we were talking about like having a QR code or something that would explain what the design project is, but I also kind of like the idea of it just being like really random and people not knowing how these popped up. And it's just like really stupid stuff, and they're like, what the hell? And they call it, and it's like, oh, here's a random message about death. What the fuck?
I feel like at that point a digital voice wouldn't be the worst thing. Like, what the heck is this? You scan a random QR code and it like forces your phone to call, and it's just like,
I kind of I feel like if I were to do it, I would want the first thing to just be like random stuff where you don't know the meaning. And then I could do, a second iteration of the posters, which could be clear and have the QR code and be cool. Then I think that would serve both of my instincts.
I mean, like, you can't just have a QR code force people phone to call it, but you can just lead to the website.
Yeah.
You talk a little bit about it, and then have a huge button on it. You click it, you call it.
Yeah. You'd have to put the number. You can't force phone calls through websites. You can kind of through QR codes. But you could. Have you heard of Linktree?
No. Oh yes. Sorry.
Yeah, Linktree is really good for like chucking a whole bunch of random information and links in, and you can put a phone number button in there as well.
True.
Yeah. Especially like when you talk about you don't want like conventional gallery space, you want to just put your posting anywhere.
Yeah.
And then like you focus on like I want a phone. You're going to have a phone number. You're going to able to make people call. Like they actually have one special space you can have, like the phone stop.
What do you mean, like a phone booth?
Yeah, so like those on streets, you put on your.
I do want stickers as well.
Oh, I mean, you can just make it big, like just like almost same size with the phone.
And just do it.
Yeah, you just put there and he was looking at it.
Find a phone booth in Christchurch though.
They have a few of them. I'm pretty sure it's city centre and.
I feel like I haven't seen one in Christchurch.
Stickers like 5 centimeters big that will have just the phone number on it and not like anything tear away, and I can just paste them like everywhere. And everyone is really confused at the influx of this random thing that's been placed around.
The Slap City people would totally tell you where to put them as
Where's
well.
Yeah.
So Slap City's a artist collective that does like the paste up and the stickers all over the city centre. And it's really cool. I've always wanted to go along to one of their meetups, but they meet up on a Wednesday night, which I'm busy every Wednesday.
Oh,
it's such a pain.
I didn't know that either.
I'll send you their Instagram.
Yeah. At least easy to find in the streets. Like if you look some small corner on the street, you probably have stick there. And also like talk about like a random stick, a random phone number. Like kind of remember me like a few years ago, like probably pre-pandemics, like there was a advertisement in Auckland City just talk about call this phone number, and nothing else in there. And then once you call this phone number, you got a bar of the gold or like lifetime free of the chocolate, something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it was maybe 1 year of Tip Top ice cream because they did a promotion where you get like a golden cone.
Yeah.
And so it was like the first 10 people that called that number got one of the golden cones, and you could get them out of the ways.
Yeah. And
you get a bone. Here's a human.
Here's a human bone.
Here's a human vertebrae.
Oh, thank you. Oh, look, it's a spare rib.
Oh, actually,
I have one of these.
I have 4 wisdom teeth, left. First 4 people that call.
Yeah, I mean, like in some way, you can try to recreate the scene of that. Like I don't know how much is for like
I'll give
renting.
a copy of the book.
Yeah.
Ew, you want one of these books? We've still got some of.
Yeah,
Book?
I mean, like you can recreate a situation like that. Like you try check out what kind of advertisement they got, like what post where the poster live, and put it exactly same font. Call this phone number.
But would it only be corporate ones?
What do you mean?
Would it only be like corporate posters that have a phone number, or if someone's posting up, like that they're looking for a bandmate?
Oh no! You do the exactly things with last one because like I think that thing is quite famous in New Zealand.
Oh, you mean like yeah?
Yeah.
I was thinking you meant like ones that were up already and just.
I like that idea. I
just putting a different phone
like
number.
Going out and like. Or like when you see chucks up a whole bunch of really annoying advertisements for a random company.
If I put one on the info part, like
I think that would be really horrible thing to do.
Directory, just be like, just have a phone number. It's like, what's this phone number for? And it's not the university. You might get in trouble for that one, but
that's only if they find out. How many people you think are going to see this?
You might be surprised.
It's a lot.
So many people on campus. I'll be like, like, oh, look at that random QR code, and like all of my friends pull out their phone to go scan it, and I'm just like, this feels like trouble. Like somebody's gonna get hurt. And there's one on one of the like beams at the top in the other room. It's just straight up the Rick Astley. Like it's just straight up that.
Right.
I was walking through with friends and like, oh look, there's a QR code up there, and scanned it, and it's just like
now I need to
Rickrolled.
Now I need to think. Please, I'll scope out some good spots.
Just stick them up everywhere.
Yeah. Like I think Luke also mentioned a few weeks ago, like talk about one of the students in here, like was sticking on the QR code and the like nameplate.
Oh yeah,
the
phantom labeler. Yeah.
How have I not heard of this?
It was like 2016.
Yeah.
And he went to like the museum and the gallery, and he put up like labels that looked like them, and he did one. It was like, go on, touch it, you want to, like things like that, all over. And they never caught him. They never found out who it was, but it was a student here.
So good. I love that so much.
And I kind of want a cool name like that.
Phantom
I want to be called Phantom something.
Or you'd be like the Mortality Reaper or something like
that. The Phantom, the superhero?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have no idea what's that.
Phantom Mortality.
He's this like purple... who played him?
I have no idea.
I can't remember. It's this superhero. There was a live action movie made, I want to say in the 90s.
It sounds about right, yeah.
And he wears like this skin tight purple bodysuit. And there's this like iconic scene of him coming out of the water with his eyes open, just like staring at the camera. I feel like it's someone big. I need to.
That's all right. We need to answer this question.
Yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
We need to Google.
Like,
we call you like Death Label Lady or
the Phantom.
The Phantom phone number.
For my thing is like
it's Billy Zane. That's it.
Right.
Yeah, he was the bad guy in Titanic.
There's a bad guy in Titanic.
I never watched the Titanic.
What? He played the iceberg or something?
He plays Rose fiance, and he's like, "You can't marry this poor man." And then he like hits her, and he's like, "Oh, you slut."
I have not seen the Titanic, but every time someone talks about it, it just gets more and more
mystery.
It sounds like a fever dream.
No, you gotta watch it. It's great.
I never watched it too.
They both fit on the door, and that's all I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Billy Zane, I think he gets out. Does he? Or does he die? I can't remember.
I wouldn't have.
He pretends he steals a child so that he can get on the women and children boat. He just like a random like child that's screaming. He picks it up. He's like, "Oh yes, my daughter. We need to go."
Oh my god. Anyway, like from my view, from your walk.
No,
Yes.
no, we're talking about the Titanic, Leo.
So death.
Right.
Don't
Like,
be
be
sad
considered.
though. Don't
We
be
have-
sad.
Don't be sad, but die.
But die.
Yeah.
we have two ways to
Encourage-
express. Like we got two ways to express.
No.
It's fake. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Like we got two ways to express your work. One way is like let people don't know your work and call it, and one way is you want people to talk about it and know it.
Yes.
Right. Like do you consider like put these things like in same time together, or you only want to choose one?
I feel like I'd want the underground one first.
Mm-hmm.
I guess people just sparking discussion,
Yeah.
and then when they're interested, then it comes like then they get the info.
A
couple weeks later.
I'm
Oh,
Banksy.
I think you can do
Like the egg that like broke the internet, and it was like got everyone excited because it's crack, and then it was just like, oh, mental health awareness.
Yeah. It was a whole trip.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The internet. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
but like
Was
for that,
really-
like can you describe the phone number post you are making now?
I mean,
The post.
Yeah.
She already did that.
What do you
Yeah, no,
mean?
I mean like how you call that things you can pull it
Take
out.
number.
Yeah,
The tearaway.
Tearaway. I don't think there's a good name for it because I haven't found any.
They're
When
like
I'm trying
pen
to find
tabs or pull tabs.
Pull. Yeah.
yeah. Like for my thing, like you could be like do like two layer of the post. From one way, from the first layer, you take phone number, and then something start to show up.
I don't know what it would show up though.
Like
body.
it's about
Because at
that.
first I was just gonna have it. I was thinking if I sliced it and then I tore it, then it wouldn't actually need a phone number. And then Luke's like, yeah, that just looked like a page torn in half. And I was like, yeah, no, it's fair.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
This is true.
I just start, yeah. My brain is kind of all over the place at all times.
That's fair.
Yeah, like to talk about like the most like famous iconic like death things. You got like what's like perfect like and like on the TV shows or movies like death design you think is good like it's fitting with your concept.
That fits with death.
Yeah.
There's so many though. I feel like when everything of like death, like 6 Feet Under, it's quite like because it's about a funeral home.
Can you describe it?
I haven't seen it. I just know it's about a funeral home, and that the main character is Michael C. Hall from Dexter. He's the main character. But I watched Dexter. I guess I like the design in Dexter, but that show kind of goes downhill near the end. I watch a lot of shows, so like going through it all, I don't know what would be like
Did you just stop the audio?
No, I'll just check the how much time.
good design
Okay.
or like
Yeah. I feel like I just watched through Star Trek, a series of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, like over the last couple of months. And every time a character dies, not that many characters die, all things considered, but they have like, they don't really do anything particularly interesting. Like it's all just coffins that get sent into space or sent back to their home planet.
Just
And
quite
it's-
navy
it's-
stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, like I understand, but also for a sci-fi show, it's like really unimaginative death practices, even across species.
True.
It's fascinating.
I think
you think
you
it would be someone else.
Yeah,
They
like, there's
do
such
have
There's
opportunity.
one.
like water planets and shit like that. You'd think there would be something else.
Yeah, they do have more. Like I think in the next generation, to explore more way to death, and also like the quite interesting one is the brand new world, which is quite new. So I remember in the beginning they say we are not letting anyone to death. So obviously after the captain said that, like a few episodes, no one dies. Like first people after that death is quite important. So I can't remember they put like half episode to like about funeral or stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but there's definitely series within the Star Trek universe that look at it closer. But for me, just because of the nature of the setting of Deep Space Nine, it was fascinating how not inventive it was.
I feel like
Yeah.
there's just
That's
like
quiet.
so many movies and TV
Yeah.
shows that like everything's going through like Cabinet of Curiosities. I don't know if you've Guillermo del Toro's.
Seen it pop up.
Oh, that one's on Netflix. There's The Autopsy. That one's the main character, and that one is mortician. So many.
Yeah.
Ozark I've been watching, and they own a funeral home, and they're hiding drug money in the caskets.
The only other shows I've really seen deal with death have been like the mystery shows, like Body of Proof, where she literally solves crimes. By
Ghost Whisperer.
Ooh,
Have you watched that?
No, I haven't.
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, she gets like ghosts that come up to her, and they're like, "Figure out how I died." iZombie.
iZombie is fascinating.
I wish that show didn't go downhill.
I mean, like besides like something like Star Trek, we also got like some the TV series called Upload, which is like put it quite.
Oh, that's the one with Robbie Amell. I haven't
Yeah.
watched it, but I've seen.
So I would describe it like it's a TV series about like you've been dead, but your mind can be uploaded to the internet, something like
that's
that.
kind of like
San Junipero.
Stitches, I think, as well, which is like for like 48 hours after the body's died, you can like stitch into their brain and see their last memories or something. Which is fascinating.
Not exactly same. That one's more like you can just live in the world, the virtual reality world. So like in this movie things or TV series things, like the death is quite in the beginning and quite like in another side of all the deaths we watch. Like in the TV series, most of the death is quite traditional.
Yeah.
Like this funeral, flower, people crying, or Navy way at Star Trek. And that one is quite like the imagination of the new deaths. That would say, when I asking like the design of the deaths in TV series, what I think about that, it's like you can actually watching your own deaths at funeral, but no one care about you. So based on that, I was thinking like the death is quite in like the funeral is two parts. One part is like you want a funeral for yourself. So that's why you plan before. Or you want a funeral for people. That's why you don't plan it. The people join the funeral plan for you. So like, I think like one way like people like in the general society and when they have a strong connection with people group together, they kind of just give up their own person links, especially like when you live in a retirement house. You see that every day, not every day, every week around that. And then you live in a small and continue and tight community. You don't really feel that strong about like how you specifically want to that.
Yeah.
But you quite want to feel like how community want to feel in that.
Yeah. I feel like the funeral itself, if you want to dictate what happens to it, then that's fine. You can put that information. But I think most of like the funeral planning that would have to happen would be by the loved ones, but more so like your end of life plans for all of your documents and your assets and things like that. Like most of the time you're going to have a say in that. And even if you don't, just being clear, who you want to take control of that afterwards, who you think, okay, well, I don't care,
Executor, you say.
Exactly. Yeah. Or just what do you want to happen to your body? If you just say like, oh, I don't care, then you could just get whatever the standard is for that funeral home.
Yeah.
And, cremation is not really sustainable in the long term based on the amount of fossil fuels that they use. It takes about like 4 hours to fully burn a body. So there's been like so many new methods coming up. And I just think it's important to be clear beforehand.
Yeah.
So, from this point, most of your work in last year is talk about how you deal with the body in last year, and this year you talk about how people feel and how people talk about the body and death.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to explore more direction about funeral parts or like preparation for death parts, something like that?
Although I have already researched those specific aspects, so I feel like I already have a good knowledge on specific like what happens in preparation. And I did contact a funeral home last year to ask them about like some of their practices, and I was able to get some of those bottles. But I think it's going to be too depressing. I feel like if someone's interested, then I'm happy to share knowledge that I've gained, but I think kind of making designs about that would be a bit much because it's like a lot of it's really graphic. I think I kind of want to go more into the emotional aspect of it, and I am considering what they said, like making the project more personal too, because it seems the previous stuff I've done, it hasn't really done anything, and I don't know if it ever will. So if I'm just making it like for myself because I think that it's interesting, maybe that's going to be the route to go. Not really sure.
If you're going to plan your own death, how are you going to do it?
I want a natural burial, which is just when they chuck you in the ground and they let the worms eat you.
Ew.
Yeah.
Worm food.
I'd prefer if Campbell and I were buried together. They can just chuck us in the same hole.
Yeah. So you have
The mix
to
of
like die at about the same time, or
You can
they
just
just
open
dig you
it.
up
We
carefully?
determined a while ago that we would go with the murder-suicide
Right,
when we're 80.
yeah,
so-
that's fair.
Yeah, that's the current plan.
Okay.
We're both going to do lots of drugs and then go out on a high note. And it's going to be a horrific scene that they find, but
that's good.
it'll be great.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Oh,
If
actually
we ever
pretty
have
good
kids
way.
or friends, what they're going to find is going to be awful. Have you seen The Last of Us?
No.
Have you seen The Last of Us?
No, not exactly.
Oh, well, this is mild spoilers, but there's a couple that does that because they're getting old and there's a zombie apocalypse and they're just like, don't open the door. And it closes, like the ending shot, it's just the window open because they say we left the window open to try and ease any smells.
I'm not even gonna
and
touch
more
that
like-
one. Yeah.
like-
But yeah, if I'm ever like feeling bad and I'm like, oh gosh, I just want to die,
Yeah.
then Campbell will be like, you gotta wait,
You can't.
60 more
Yeah.
years.
It's like my friend who's like, oh, you're not allowed to get hit by a bus. I'm like, oh, what do you mean? He's like, you're only allowed to get hit by a bus if I'm driving the bus. And he's never going to learn how to drive a bus, so it's never going to happen.
Well,
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
waiting.
Although
Yeah.
I nearly got run over by a bus driver getting my bike off the front of the bus the other day.
People, all Christchurch drivers, I think, are fucking idiots most of the time. The amount of times I've almost been hit because people just don't pay attention.
well, like I mean, to have more design part, like
Design.
yeah.
I have,
are
like-
you going to design your stone? Design how like small like coffin?
No, I don't think I'll have. I think we'll have like a linen sack,
Yeah.
and they can
Nice.
just carry me,
Yeah,
fireman's hold.
Worm food.
Yeah, so whatever eases it. They found that like sometimes putting alfalfa aids
Ooh.
that,
That's
but you
cool.
can't put too much. But I also would be open to like composting.
Just like a tree. I always thought it'd be funny. Have you seen those memes that like bury me with some tree seeds so I come growing out of the ground?
Unfortunately, it's not the most feasible. Like you've
Why?
seen those ones where they have like the person in the pod
Yeah.
with the tree on top. That wasn't like an actual death like practice.
Oh.
It was like just a theoretical design project. But the amount of like nitrogen, I've been told,
Yeah.
I've seen that the amount of nitrogen stuff that is
Human
released
body,
when the
yeah.
human body decomposes would kill the tree. So it would have to be placed like you'd have to wait for natural decomposition and then place the tree afterwards, or a shrub or something. But it wouldn't be just like. And there's those ones where they take like your ashes and mix it.
Yeah.
But that's only really possible because ashes are inorganic material since after they're fired.
Yeah.
There's also like other methods like now I'm blanking. It's where they basically soak your body in liquid nitrogen, and then they
yeah,
vibrate
that is
you
so
on this
cool,
sheet
I know.
really fast so that you break it up into little small pieces.
That's cool.
I
And
have
also
it
make
somewhere
you
in my notes.
diamonds and make
Yeah,
you like
Yes,
seen the,
but
like,
that is
those
that's still
pressed
organic
records,
material.
Like they're resin.
Yes.
100% that's what Luke would do.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Like-
It's on brand for Luke.
My
Like-
mom wants to be turned into jewelry.
yeah. I want to be burnt to ash because I feel like ash is quite clean. Like it's not like I don't want to be bitten by worms, but and then put on some like fruit trees, like apple trees, orange trees, like that.
Turn
Yeah.
you into paint.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll
I
turn
like-
Leo into paint.
I like those like lockets that have people's hair in them.
I think those are cool.
Yeah. Like especially when it's like woven into like a pretty pattern.
I have a locket that's got a whisker from my old cat and from my rabbit. when I was a kid. Yeah.
I don't want to think about my cats dying.
Well, they're gonna die before you do.
I know.
It's a big sad.
Like, they're going to live for like 20 more years, though, so we'll be okay.
20
That's
more.
not how cats work.
Yeah, the oldest
Wow.
cat was like 30.
What kind of cat?
Regular cat?
The cats that tend to live for ages tend to be pure, not like pure breeds necessarily, but like British Blues that can be identified as British Blues for whatever reason seem to live forever.
The oldest cat was an orange cat, and she
Oh.
was like 28 or 30,
Wow.
I want to say.
God.
Not
And
bad
my
then.
cats are only 2, so...
I mean, you've got plenty of time.
22,
There, so only
you know.
two.
Yeah.
And the average
but now
lifespan for an indoor cat is 15 years. So,
Our old man got to 14. He was an outdoor cat.
So indoor cat living longer than outdoor cat.
yeah. Outdoor cats live an average of 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. It depends on where you have them, but especially
Cars,
in a setting, pollution, chemicals from people gardening,
Cat fights.
that too. Yeah.
Um,
Dogs.
yeah, like if someone leaves out rat traps or something,
Yeah,
the cat
predators.
eats it. Bears in the States, mountain lions, eagles,
Gosh.
Possums in New Zealand. The possums will take on the cats.
Ooh,
raccoons.
We don't have those here.
lucky.
There's so many things that could happen.
Badgers.
Feline
foxes.
AIDS.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. Feline AIDS.
I don't even
Or
know what
the
is
cat,
that.
Like the cat flu.
AIDS,
It's
like
literally
HIV.
AIDS, but for
Oh.
cats.
Yeah, it affects your immune system. That's
Yeah,
the
right.
word.
Gosh.
What a fun combo.
I think
You
it's-
have like 3 cats. How do you not know?
I don't
have
have
2
a 3
cats.
cats.
Oh.
My cousin have 3 cats. I don't have 3 cats.
Yeah. Okay.
That's is different and
This is
separation.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you just consider to design funeral for your cats first?
Design a funeral for my...
I feel like that's like a massive like left-hand turn out of your
Yeah, yeah.
projects.
I mean, I would.
I mean, yeah, like it's probably the
Pellet
thing.
cleanser, right?
You're
Have you
gonna
seen
see your
this?
cat dead one day.
The felt artists that make portraits of your cat.
Mm-hmm.
I need that. I'm getting tattoos of them as soon as
Oh,
I
that's
can
cute.
afford it. So yeah, there's already things in motions. I have like 300 photos of them on my phone.
This is not ready for the cat death. I mean, like design whole like I'm gonna have a hosting a party or something like that.
Yeah, well, I'd probably we have a house, then bury them in the backyard,
Yeah.
and then
Wait,
I'd
but-
probably just be me and Campbell. You know,
You pick a tree that you bury all the cats under because cat bodies decomposing is really good for fruit trees.
and I go and I make like a nice tombstone out of clay.
Nice. We
It's
had
just-
growing up. My grandparents' house that my mum had grown up in, there was a Monty surprise plum. It wasn't an actual Monty surprise plum. Like that's an actual species of plum and apple that are called
Oh.
Monty surprises. But there was this tree. It was Monty surprise plum, and it was not actually that. It was completely different. Those are like green plums or something, and this plum was a like deep red plum. And I asked mum about it at one point, and she goes, "Oh yeah, that's where my cat Monty was buried." I was like, yes, it makes more sense now. Because apparently the tree was like half dead, and then within 2 years of burying the cat underneath, it had like gotten really healthy just from growing off the nutrients of the dead cat. And they're like,
Right.
it's
Cats
the plum
are
tree.
a lot easier. You can decompose, whereas humans, it's like we got a lot of mass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Make a
a
lot of
big
gas.
gal. I'd
And
probably
also,
kill
like
the
when
tree.
human decompose, more heat get out. I'm
Yeah.
probably just baking everything out.
Sometimes, the
Yeah.
coffins can explode if they're airtight seal.
The human bodies decompose in a very different way to animals as well. Like the flesh
The amount of
decomposes in a different
stomach
way.
acid we have starts eating us first. First and foremost.
So, like, do you consider like how was the position and what's composition between the graphic design and death in your design work?
Yes, I have looked into. Well, that was kind of what I was looking into last year. Is like how it was used in like death planning and also online funeral sites, also like memorial sites as well. That now you can like give a gift or like light a candle for someone that's passed, as well as obituary sites. So I looked at quite a lot, but I still found the kind of same non-design design used across the board, which kind of made me want to make my own stuff.
Right. Yeah. All
I
right.
wonder if that's something that like post this year you could look into doing, like reaching out and offering your services kind of thing.
Yeah, I definitely would. They've all been very lovely so far, the ones that I've contacted. Right now I've done some design work for Twilio and an accounting firm, so I need to branch out a bit, I think.
Anyway, so we call that it?
I feel like we've chatted. Is there anything else you particularly want to add? Or
Not that I can think of.
Right,
It's
great.
been a good conversation. I
Yeah,
enjoyed this.
but thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
you.
Thank you for chatting.